Today I want to show you something that goes to show that the mark of the beast is coming, bro. This stuff I'm about to share you is predictive programming from when the mark of the beast actually comes, which I'll get into that later. Now that if you want to fly, you have to have a real ID. I want to read this Instagram picture that I saw. It says, TSA will charge you $18 if you don't have a real ID. Then I'm going to read the post that goes with it. It says TSA is rolling out a new rule that forces travelers without acceptable ID to pay an $18 fee at airport security. TSA announced a new policy that will hit millions of travelers with an $18 charge if they arrive at airport checkpoints without a real ID or passport. The agency says this fee is part of a modernized identity verification program meant to cover government proceeding costs. The catch is that even if you pay the fee, there's no guarantee TSA will verify your identity or let you through. The policy is launching days before one of the busiest holiday travel periods of the year, with more than 80 million Americans expected to travel. In Min's take, real IDs have been coming, and now they will charge you if you're not prepared. Like I talked about it in multiple videos in the past, you can check it out. You can check out Mark the Messenger's videos. He's been talking about it. All this is steps closer to the mark of the beast. This is all predictive programming to the mark of the beast, because the mark of the beast, when it comes, I'm going to talk about that later, but I'm going to talk about this real quick, that you won't be able to travel, you won't be able to buy or sell or do anything without it. And this is very similar to the digital ID that I've talked about in multiple videos, Mark the Messenger as well, which is basically the same thing, but it's just digital ID that you need it to travel, you need it to go places. In the UK, you need it to work a job. You can't work a job without it. And that's very similar to the mark of the beast, when you won't be able to buy or sell without the chip. And in California, they actually have a real ID. You can't travel in and out of California without a real ID. So that's another form of predictive programming for the mark of the beast. So if you guys don't know what a real ID is, I'm going to put it up on the screen. It says, a real ID is a state-issued driver's license or identification card that meets federal security standards. It is used for official federal purposes, such as flying domestically and entering certain federal facilities starting May 7, 2025. Real IDs have a star marking, usually in the top right corner, to indicate they meet these enhanced standards. So it's used for flying, accessing federal facilities, and entering nuclear power plants. And this Real ID stuff is actually a part of the Real ID Act that started in 2005, which I'm going to read up on the screen. It says the Real ID Act is a 2005 U.S. law that sets minimum security standards for state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards starting May 7, 2025. These cards, if they meet the requirements, are required for certain federal purposes, such as boarding domestic commercial flights and entering federal facilities like courthouses and military bases. To get a Real ID compliant card, you must visit your state's driver's licensing agency and provide documentation providing your identity, social security number, and residency. And if you want to know why it was created, it was because of 9/11, to strengthen security. It says the Real ID Act was created in 2005 as a response to the 9/11 Commission's recommendations to improve national security by setting minimum security standards for state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards. The law's goal is to make identification documents more reliable and to prevent terrorists from using a fraudulent identification to evade detection when boarding commercial aircraft or accessing federal facilities, which I already talked about it before. Mark the Messenger's talking about it. 9/11 was an inside job. It was all planned. The Revelation chapter 2 verse 9 through verse 9 people, the Jews, the JEWS people, the synagogues of Satan who run this earth, they were behind 9/11. They did 9/11. It's all predictive programming. I'll put up on the screen the pictures in like TV shows and movies that show that 9/11, it's all predictive programming. They showed us right in our face before it happened. I remember, I think it was Neo in the Matrix, his ID, card, or passport, or birth certificate, or something like that. It said September 11, 2001. And look what happened. And that movie's created in 1999. So they clearly showed us right in our face before it happened. I want to react to a video of a news reporter reacting to it, so let me get into it.
No real ID, no passport, no problem. The TSA has proposed a new rule where passengers traveling without either form of identification would pay a fee of $18 in order to have their identity verified by a new biometric kiosk system. The fee would then allow passengers to access TSA checkpoints for 10 days. The public comment period for the proposed rule begins tomorrow.
I actually want to react to another one, and this woman actually shows what happens if you don't have a real ID. This was actually taken like half a year ago on May 20th, but nevertheless I found it, but I still wanted to react to it. This is what happens if you don't have the real ID.
This is what happens when you try to fly now without a real ID.
Okay. I mean, just have you come over here for me.
So they're pulling me to the side because I don't have a real ID or anything. I don't know if I can see. So pull me to the side. Now I gotta wait.
They kept me waiting for about 10 minutes.
Good. Put that in your hands, okay?
They swabbed both of my hands.
Why can you do that?
Alright, as y'all can see, I made it to my gate. They let me in. All they did was another security measure, which once I got there, this guy came and stopped me and they like swiped my phone. The same thing they did with my hands, they did that to my phone for some reason. They said it was random, but I'm just like, no, it's probably because I ain't got a real ID. But yeah, man, if you don't got a real ID, you still able to fly. You know, just make sure you got some extra time to spare, because if the line was longer, it probably would have taken longer, you know. But yeah, they just gonna swipe your hands, maybe swipe your phone once you get through. And that's really it, as y'all can see. I made it, I'm here, waiting on my plane to start boarding. So yeah, I hope this helps anybody who don't have a real ID and still plan on traveling. I guess you're still able to travel. So don't even worry about it, you good.
So you don't need a real ID, like she said, but like you saw, she had to wait like 10 minutes of swiping her hands, swiping her phone, because she didn't have it. And honestly, me personally, I would much rather take that option, because I'm not complying to this real ID stuff. I see the agenda, I see the real meaning behind it, I see the deception. And like I said, this is all programming for the mark of the beast, where you won't be able to buy or sell, do anything, travel without it. And now let me get into it, what it actually is. The mark of the beast is a chip in your right hand or in your forehead. Like I said, you can't buy, sell, travel, you can't do anything. Just like back in 2020 with the one thing in your arm, you couldn't go to certain places, you couldn't travel to certain places if you didn't have it. The same thing, nothing new under the sun. 2020 was a pre-test. The majority of the people failed the test. Most people comply to it. So it's going to be the same thing with the mark of the beast. People are not going to resist. They're going to cave in. And if you get that chip, you're worshiping Satan. You're going to burn in hell forever. So do not get the chip. And there's no excuse. Oh, I want to provide for my family. I want to travel, this and that. Because it says in Matthew chapter 6 verse 26, God feasts the birds. Even though they don't work a job, they don't store food in their refrigerator, but God still feeds them. So of course they're going to feed us, because we're more valuable and better than the birds. So it's your fault for complying. It's your fault for letting people talk you into it. It's your fault for not trusting God to provide for you. And seeing all these travel restrictions now, like I just showed you, reminds me of a verse in the book of Apocrypha, which is a lost book in the Bible. It says in 2 Esdras chapter 15 verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. So what do we see today? Yes, like that woman said, you could still travel without the ID, but it's just, you have to go through a little extra more stuff. But eventually, it's gonna come a point where you probably won't be able to travel at all if you don't have the ID. So we clearly see it right here. This verse literally shows what's to come. And like I said, California already has a real ID where you can't travel in and out of California without the real ID. So that's another form of predictive programming right there. And like I said, this is very similar to the digital IDs because, like I said, in the UK, you can't work a job without it. In China, you need it as well. In Canada, they're looking to implement it as well. And it's going to come to the US too. We see it in the US here. It's pretty much going to come all around the world. This is all pre-steps to the mark of the beast. This is all predictive programming people to accept it. And Satan, he's not going to push it out right away. He's going to slowly implement it to program people to accept it when the mark of the beast actually comes. That's why it's called predictive programming, to program people to accept it. It's in the name, programming. And you want to know another predictive programming? Look at your credit card, the chip, the great chip at the end of it. That's another form of predictive programming. It wouldn't surprise me as well if we see celebrities, we see politicians, whoever sold their soul to the devil and doing Satan's will, push it out because they have to push it out to promote it, because that's their job, to lead people to hell, because that's where they're going, misery-less company. They're doing Satan's will. Just like back in 2020, we saw celebrities, politicians promoting it. The V word, it's going to be the same thing. Nothing new under the sun. I'm not saying it is going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if they start doing the same thing as well. And when the mark of the beast comes, promoting it. Oh, look how cool it is. Look how holy it is. Look how convenient it is. Because remember, the devil disguised himself as an angel of light, so it's going to appear as very convenient for your everyday life, very useful, very helpful. But at the root core of it is darkness. This is Satan's agenda, Satan's demonic agenda. This is Satan behind it, so do not fall for it. Do not comply. This stuff is not your friend. This stuff is not going to help you. This stuff is going to lead to your demise. This stuff is taking away your freedom because you're restricted now. You can't go to certain places. You can't fly without the ID in California. You can't travel in and out without the ID. So they're slowly taking away our freedom. If you don't comply to it, they're taking away your freedom. And like I said, this stuff is very similar to the digital IDs. This digital ID is the same thing because it's digital. This is the same concept. If you watch my videos, I talked about Apple's coming out with digital ID. They have it in the airports as well, more than 250 airports. They're implementing it as well where you needed to travel. It's the same thing, concept. It's the same thing, bro. Nothing new under the sun. And it wouldn't surprise me if you needed to work a job in the US, all around the world. It wouldn't surprise me at that point. If you need it to access society, if you need it to do anything, like I said, it's pre-steps in programming people for the mark of the beast to accept it. Well, that's gonna do for this video. Please do not comply to this digital ID, to this real ID stuff. This stuff is not helpful. This stuff is not your friend. This is taking away your freedom. Please see the demonic agenda. Ask God in secret to give you eyes to see, ears to hear, to show you the deception behind this stuff. Like I said, it's disguised as an angel of light. It's just going to appear as very convenient and helpful. But the root core of it is darkness. Please do not fall for it. And I'll catch you on the next one.